you'll have that opportunity. All right. Well, happy Easter, everybody. I'm really happy that you've joined me. And I wish we could be joining in person, but this is kind of like the next best thing, I think. So, as I was kind of bringing my thoughts together about what I'd like to share, truly a message of hope. And it's a message of hope when I think that many people are really feeling a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, a lot of sadness for very good reasons, of course. And we all know what those reasons are. I don't need to go over those. Um, but I also think that there's, when we think of Easter, it really is a time of renewal. It always comes in the spring, and it's a time of rebirth. It's a time of, if we're in the Christian tradition, a time of resurrection. And so, as I was thinking about what I'd like to share, I thought about the image of the butterfly. And the butterfly is a great, it's a great image for spring and for Easter, but it's more than that. We can really look at the life of a butterfly and really use it as an analogy for our own story. So we all know that a butterfly is first a caterpillar before it becomes a butterfly, but the process in which that happens is pretty amazing. So a butterfly will lay an egg, many eggs, on the underside of a leaf of a specific plant. And a butterfly will only lay their eggs on one particular kind of plant, not just any old plant. And so then those eggs will hatch out and become a little tiny caterpillar. And that caterpillar comes out ravenously hungry. And I imagine we've all seen those ravenous caterpillars on some of our plants. They just eat everything in sight, and they eat and eat and eat and eat and eat, just ravenously devouring the leaves of that plant that they hatched out on. And so then they grow. And as they grow, they actually have to shed their skin, and they're a bigger caterpillar. And they keep eating and eating and eating and eating and eating, consuming the leaves just so fast. And then they shed their skin again. And at some point, they stop growing, and they begin to form this hard shell. It's not on the outside of their body, it's inside, under their skin. That hard shell begins to form, and then the caterpillar sheds its skin one last time, and what's exposed is the chrysalis, or the pupa. It can be called either one. And it attaches itself under a leaf or a little twig or something, and it just is held there. And it can hide itself very well because it can change its color to match whatever the background is. And so now this unbelievable thing happens inside of this pupa, this chrysalis. The body of that caterpillar actually dissolves. It just breaks down completely. It turns into mush. And I actually saw a video of it. Somebody opened up a pupa, and it's just sort of this green, liquidy mush. And all the cells that are in there just disintegrate, except there's one special kind of cell called an imaginal cell that doesn't break down. And that imaginal cell inside the pupa has the image in it of the butterfly. It has the information it needs to become the butterfly. And so after everything that was caterpillar is completely mush, now those imaginal cells start to work together to create the butterfly. And when the butterfly is completely matured, which takes about 10 days to 2 weeks, then it's able to emerge from its chrysalis and spread its wings. And there is nothing similar about the caterpillar and the butterfly. They're entirely different. in every possible way. And you would never imagine that the information inside of that caterpillar was able to become, to build, it had in it what it needed to become a butterfly. And so I wonder if maybe we're a little bit like that. You know, we've been living in a world where we humans have been acting like caterpillars. We've been voraciously consuming our world. You know, more is always better. Infinite growth is the way our economic system is designed. More, more, more. And we've been consuming and consuming and consuming. And yet inside of us, we've kind of known this wasn't the way we wanted to be. We've kind of known that there was a better kind of world to have, that different ways to spend our time and our energy instead of getting more and more and more. And so there have been parts of us that have been resistant to that. And there's an author that I love. His name is Charles Eisenstein. He wrote a book called The More Beautiful World Our Hearts Know Is Possible. And I think that that little voice in our hearts that knows that there's a more beautiful world, knows that there's more to life than consuming the leaf that we're born onto or the earth that we're born on. And so that part of us, I think, is now beginning to emerge in a whole new way, because with this pandemic, we're kind of like we're living in this isolation like this chrysalis. And there's part of us that's breaking down. There's parts of our system that are disintegrating, our economic system. Many of our systems seem to be in collapse. And we don't really know. We feel like we're in very uncertain times. And we're using the term, is this the new normal? And of course, how do we know? How do we know what is coming? We don't know. But maybe there's a part of us that knows. Maybe those imaginal cells inside of us know. And maybe there are people in our society who have been holding a vision of a better world, but have had a hard time seeing how to get there from here. I mean, if you're in a caterpillar body, how do you just go poof and become a butterfly? And maybe that isn't possible. Maybe that more beautiful world that our hearts know is possible is going to require that we allow the collapse of the old system in order to give birth to the new system. I mean, I don't know. I certainly don't know. But that's a message that gives me some hope. Now, while we're in a world that's so shut down, some people might be watching this video, years from now, but this is the Easter of 2020, when we're in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic, and we're living under what's called social distancing, which is physical isolation. And yet we don't have to be totally socially distant. Those of us who are on this call together are connecting. And that's one of the beauties of the culture that we have created, is that we're able to connect in this way. But the parts of our world that we don't want to continue to have, I think this is an opportunity. When we push the pause button, we say, just stop. And maybe we hang on the chrysalis as a chrysalis for a little bit. This is Heidi. She's wanting to share her message of hope too. When we recognize, while we're taking this break from some parts of our lives, it's giving us a chance to maybe go inside a little bit and to see what are some of the things that are more important to us. Do we want to go back to the world the way it was? Would we like for this just to go away and life returned exactly to the way it was before? I wouldn't want that. I think all of us knew that we had issues in this world that needed to be changed, but we had no idea how to do it. We still have no idea how to do it, I think. But the fact that we are pushing the pause button and finding out, there's some parts of this that we want to keep. We want to maybe keep having more uh, more time with the people in our homes, and creating a real home that is a refuge for us, as opposed to just a place to change clothes and go back out and do our busy lives. So I think there are parts of what we have right now that we're going to want to maintain and to take with us into a new way. But I also think that there's other parts that we haven't figured out. What are we going to do about? For instance, like the economic system. The economic system has not been a good system for most people, where a very few people have all the wealth and everybody else is just working to maintain themselves. You work today just so that you can work again tomorrow. And I think this pandemic is starting to show some of the problems in that system. That some people who work and work and work are still at a point where if they don't work for a little while, they can't make ends meet. And so there are definitely issues with this problem, with this situation. So I think one of the blessings of this time is our awareness. We're beginning to step back and to be more aware of the things that are important and the things that maybe we thought they were and maybe they're not that important. Some of the really great stories that we're getting out of what's going on now, all these people working together to make more masks for healthcare providers or for other people. My cousin, Charlie's cousin, Becky, made masks for him and for me. It's just a very generous thing. And she's made many masks for many other people as well. And there are people all over the place doing that. We hear about, people that are reaching out to their neighbors to support them and to pick up groceries for people. And I heard a really heartwarming story about something going on in Italy, where there were people passing a basket around. And I don't know whether it had money in it or food or what, but the situation was that if you had something to share, you put it in the basket and pass it on. And if when the basket gets to you, you have need for what's in the basket, you can take what you need from the basket and you pass it on. And so everybody can either add to the basket or take from the basket. And I think what a beautiful way for the world to work. And that is something that's inside of us, even when we are still living as caterpillars. But now maybe is the time that we can look to that imaginal cell inside ourselves and say, there is a more beautiful world that my heart knows is possible. And I'm willing to do something to create that. Now, one thing that's been very, it's also a mantra in our society, is that change is hard. We've all heard it, we've all said it. Change is hard. And even if I'm willing to change, nobody else is willing to change. And so things are just going to be the way they are because people are the way they are, and change is hard. But guess what? We've all changed. All of us have changed. We're doing things now that we would have never thought we would do. And so is everybody else. Who would think that we'd be at home on Easter watching a Zoom call, wearing masks when we go out in public, avoiding each other, not giving each other hugs or even handshakes. And here's a little joke for you. I heard this, I don't know where I was, but that the reason why we can't shake hands anymore is because of the shortage of toilet paper. Okay, that's kind of a 7th grade joke. But anyway, so we are changing. We are proving that we can change if we think it's important enough. Now, of course, the reason we think it's important is because it's necessary for our health. We don't want to die, and we don't want to make other people die. And so as long as we think it's really important, we can do it. And we're willing to do it because it's a collective decision. If it was up to each person individually, it would be a harder change. But when we can do it collectively, then we actually can see that it's a possible thing. And so again, that is one of the messages of hope, that we can do this and other people can have that same commitment to making those changes. So let's talk a little bit about health right now, because that's what this whole pandemic says it's about. Although I think it's really about something much more than that. Of course, you all know that I'm very committed to my own health and to the health of other people, and that's why I teach my plant-based nutrition and cooking classes. And so I have heard many people say this is so hard because other people are not doing it. But I have also seen so many people who have made the change, and all kinds of health problems are reversed. High blood pressure goes down, high blood sugar comes down, arteries can open up, people can lose weight, they can sleep better. All kinds of amazing health problems can go away because we have a design that knows how to be healthy. But we have to give ourselves what our bodies need in order to be healthy. And so if we were really committed to our health now, and not just to the avoiding the COVID-19 virus, if we were really committed to our health, we could look at what are the other things that I could do that could actually contribute to my health. Because the truth is, the majority of people before the pandemic have had health problems, the kind that cause the suffering and death of most people in the Western world. We've had obesity, diabetes, heart disease, cancer, Alzheimer's disease, gastrointestinal problems. And all of those things that we had before the pandemic, we're still going to have after the pandemic if we don't change what we're doing. And so once we realize that, the thing that's the least likely to cause our death is the COVID-19 virus. We have a very, very small chance of dying of that. But we have a very large chance of dying from a preventable disease like obesity, diabetes, cancer, heart disease, Alzheimer's, and many others. But those are, the big ones. And so if we actually recognize that we are making choices right now that are extremely inconvenient for us, and you could say hard to do. Who wants to be socially isolated indefinitely? We don't know when this is going to end. But we're doing it. We could take that same commitment to our other lifestyle choices, and during the pandemic and after, make healthy lifestyle choices. Eat a healthy, unprocessed, plant-based diet. Get out in nature. We can still do that here. Breathe fresh air, move our bodies, have whoever is in your life, whether they're pets or plants or other people, spend time with them and enjoying them. Yes. And be creative with your time. Pick up some of those interests that maybe you've already had before, but you just didn't have time for them. Or maybe you want to pick up something new and learn how to do it. There's so many things that we can do. We might actually think about, why was I born? What do I have to offer? Really, what is the purpose of my life? And how can I contribute to the world in some new ways? And I think that once we begin to use our time like that, we can begin to develop those imaginal cells so that we have an opportunity to not only create ourselves as the butterfly, but a whole society that can put those kinds of values into place and create a more beautiful world that our hearts know is possible. One that works not only for us, but for others as well. Now, during this time of confusion, there's a lot, an unknown. there's a lot of helplessness. What can I do? There are people that we know that we want to be with because we know they are sick and they are alone and we want to be with them. And we can feel so helpless. But when we just dwell on that, it's going to be really hard for us to live into the person that we can be, and we can just become just depressed. And that's not helping the world either. So if we start to focus on the things that we do have control over instead of the things that we don't have control over, and we still have a tremendous amount of control over our own personal lives, beyond whether we are keeping our hands clean and our social distance and wearing a mask and all of that. We can control the food we put in our mouth, what time we go to bed at night, how many Netflix movies we're watching, or how we're spending our time. Are we getting up out of our chair and maybe putting some music on and moving to the music, or doing something that activates ourselves? I think one of the things that is one of the things we've lost in the culture that we've been living in is that it's been easy to forget that we are physical beings in a physical world, because we're often using our electronics and we're living in a virtual world in so many ways. And so doing something that's tangible and physical, like cooking healthy food, that's a very tangible physical thing. Eating that food, being grateful that we still have access to it. Every time I sit down to one of my delicious, nutritious meals, I'm so grateful that I still have access to that. I don't know where that food was grown, and I don't know the people that grew it or who delivered it to Alaska, but I'm so grateful that I still have access to it, and I have the choice to be able to continue to eat that food so that I can continue to be healthy. Um, the other things that we can do to remember that we're physical beings is, again, to move our bodies, to notice what our bodies feel like, doing some sort of not just strengthening exercises. That's a good thing. It's not a bad thing, but something that moves our whole body and we can move in some sort of rhythm. So like maybe yoga, maybe qigong or tai chi or dancing, something where we really feel our essence, our physical essence. And it's not just some repetitive thing that we're doing kind of mindlessly, but we're mindfully doing this action. I think that's really important. One thing that I'm doing is planting seeds so that I can be growing a garden this summer. We still have lots of snow covering the garden, but it's really nice to be able to stick some seeds in the soil and put them in my sunroom and watch them grow, and to feel very connected to life, to the plants, to the life force. And I'm just wondering if that might be what it feels like to be an imaginal cell. That imaginal cell that's living in the midst of its soup, its caterpillar soup that it's lost its form, it's lost its function, but it is in the process of becoming. It's in the process of becoming something more beautiful. And that was always present all along, and it is present now. That is present in every form of the caterpillar. It doesn't make a caterpillar bad and the butterfly good. It's a stage of development. And I think that we have been in a stage of development of voraciously consuming our world, of getting out of touch with who we can be with each other, helping each other, enjoying just the process of living. And I think now is a great time for us to come back to that awareness. And the reason why I feel like this is really a message of hope is because right now, my message is not that, we can survive this. We can survive this crisis. That's not my message. my message is that not only can we survive it, but we can come through it as something more than we were when we came in. We can personally be more than we were, and we can collectively commit to creating this better world that works for all of us, for all humans, for all other beings, for this beautiful planet that has been supporting us, that we have been devouring at a voracious rate, and that we can begin to create something that's more beautiful than we could even at this point imagine, because we're still in that chrysalis stage. We have not come out yet as the butterfly, but that awareness that there is something more, there is something more beautiful, there is something better, is within us. And when we nurture that, we welcome that, we continue to just act on whatever it is that we feel called from our highest and best self to do for ourselves and for others. I believe that's how we get through this and to create a better world, so that when we come out on the other side of this pandemic, that we're on the way to creating a world where we have not only better physical health and well-being, but better spiritual health, better psychological health, and the opportunity to create something that's more socially and economically just and beautiful and wonderful. So I want to wish you a happy Easter, and I hope that this has felt like a message of hope for you. That's my intention, and that we will all continue to nurture that imaginal cell that is inside each one of us. So thank you, and I'm going to sign off for now.